allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning. We're going to start off with any citizens who would have any public comments this morning. Mr. Schultz, would you please state your name and address, please?
My name's Nick Schultz. I'm in 8410 130th Street, Cologne, Minnesota. And I got a few agendas here for you. Now that I'm retired, I told you I'd be coming. In Waconia, the cabinet shop, I had a dilemma there. I went and got my tooth fixed, and I just happened by the hospital, and it stunk so bad your eyes are watering. As I look across the street, I could see my grandson out in the park in the playground. I went and got my OEM meter, because I am trained in this hazmat, and the alarm went off. I went to the city. They told me it was you guys. I talked to Jason. He says it's them. Well, this finger pointing, and I called up the pollution control agency, which they told me to do. I talked to a young lady on the phone. She goes, "Oh, she's the duty officer." I said, "Well, where does it go from here? Normally you got 24 hours to take a look at it." "Oh, I just put it in the computer." I said, "Well, where does it go from there?" She didn't know. So I went to the next step, and I called the Minnesota one, and I finally got a hold of a guy, and then he went and he looked up, and he called me back in 2 weeks, nothing, and then he called me back and goes, "Oh, that's coming up on permit, you guys to keep on blowing the shit in the air." Well, I talked to Jason, he goes, "That's not in your ball court." Well, whose ball court is? Our children are over there sucking that gas in, and all those people in there, and they go, "Well, no one's complaining about it." Yeah, they are. Everyone got fed up and they quit calling. Our children are there. Anyone want your children sucking in, go in this room and start spraying paint and lacquer and have your young children sucking that? We're going to have lung problems. Something has to be done. Okay? Someone has to look into this. I went as far as I can. And then this CUP, police. You guys, I bring this up 6 years ago. You guys got to have $1 million, $2 million bonds. You got to have fees to pay for it. Instead of that $450 and it lasts for lifetime on that property. No, it should be $4,500 a year. So you can hire a private company to take care of it and have penalties so that they got fines and they have to shut down if they're not following it. My neighbor's not following it. He brings all his garbage in a fire the size of this room every year. He ain't hauling it off. It ain't going nowhere. He has end dumps and trailers all over. He wasn't supposed to have that. That ain't getting done. Until you get a police department and start charging right, it ain't going to happen. Because once you give a CUP, they got free reign to do whatever they want. That needs to stop. That's why I'm here. And if you want me to get up there and start pushing stuff and run for board, I will. Privatization in Carver County. You see what government bloat's doing. You guys have over 850 employees. Wow. Why do you got plow trucks? Why you got backhoes? Why do you got all that? That all could be hired privately. You guys could take, I like this. You were taking bids on some stuff. Well, you should be bidding out your plowing. You should be bidding out your tar work. You should be bidding your culverts. No, I seen Carver County do some culverts. Every spot is a joke. Right on 41, you gotta hang on when you go through that road. Wherever they put a culvert, they didn't do their job right. Why are we having these buildings? Government bloat. We're seeing that in the United States of America. We should be hiring this out. Then you can hold them accountable and say, go fix your problem. What happens here? Blind eye. Just leave it go. Throw some more tar on it. Another question. Who pays for all the signs and the guardrails when they get hit by cars? Is the police department getting the insurance company and getting all that? No, we the taxpayers are paying for it. Why are we paying for the signs that get hit by cars and semis and everything else and the guardrails, and then we're hiring Carver County people to put it up and fix it? Why? That cop was there. They knew it hit it. They should get that insurance company, and then they paid to get it fixed. Why are we all paying for it? The insurance, you got insurance on your cars. The cop caught him. He has his license plate. Write him a ticket, $400 ticket or a $200 ticket. Doesn't pay for that $20,000 worth of guardrail to fix. In privatization, we have to move to it. Doge is coming. And I'm here to help. If you want help, I'll help. I used to run a $15 million well drilling company. And I'll tell you what, I know what to do. I know how to cut. And you don't buy vehicles every 5 years, like the last time I was in here. You change them out every 5 years. You know, I still got a rig that was made the same year I was born, 1964. Yeah, we put a different truck under it. But even the truck wasn't new. Why are we changing out all the equipment every 5 years? You don't need to, because you don't need the equipment. Hire it out. You don't need all these buildings. You don't need all these employees. That all can be hired by bids, like you're gonna do these other bids for the walkways and other stuff. Wake up. The people are fed up. I was at the last meeting. Their property tax, some people are $20,000, $30,000 property tax, and they didn't know how they were gonna make it and retire. They thought they had to move. So please, it's coming. Because what if you don't do it? You keep on raising the taxes up. Pretty soon no one can live here. Just handing out money, like Paul Revere said. It's not up to you to hand my money out. If you want me to give charity, mail me an envelope. Then I'll pay. I'll give it to someone that needs it. Just like Jesus said in the Bible. He did not help the lazy. I just went around the other day. I seen a gal at the paint store, one arm screwed up, and she's working. Her arm's crippled. I see another girl, she's up at the store in a wheelchair, putting clothes on the rack. Everyone can work. There's something for you. That human health service downstairs and everything, that big piece of the pie that we're spending the big money on, needs to be looked at. Because I'm not authorizing that. They can work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz, and I know that our staff has diligently taken notes about some of your concerns. I would be interested to hear about where the environmental air quality, if the PCA is telling us that's our job, we'll have to figure that out. But thank you. I let you go over the 5-minute mark, probably doubled you, but you're entertaining. And other than that one bad word you use, sir, that you wouldn't use in front of your grandchildren, all good. So thank you. Okay, anybody else? Or is everybody too afraid now? All right, let's move on to the agenda review and adoption. Can I get a motion?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion by Uterman, a second by Lynch to approve the agenda, the review and adoption. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the February 18th, 2025 minutes.
Move to approve as presented, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Fahey and a second by Anderson to approve the February 18th, 2025 minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Community announcements. Who do we have? Commissioner Fahey.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I was at an AMC conference last week down in St. Paul, and also we had an AMC Executive Director Board meeting that I had participated in, and we talked a lot about the governor's budget, and the governor spoke at that conference also. And from the AMC perspective, it's just not acceptable to us. So as the counties continue to push back the changes in health and human services, just not sustainable. And the programs have to change, and we, the counties, we just can't absorb those costs. And AMC feels we have to change the who and the why we treat and help people in health and human services. So that just continues to move forward. And then also they talked about the remote workforce, which was kind of interesting. When remote workforce started, it was in general just kind of a metro area issue. And now it's a statewide issue, and just how competitive that feature has come or has become before the workforce. So with the state of Minnesota, there are 856 cities, 87 counties, 1,781 townships, and 300 school districts. It's just a competitive issue for the workforce as we try to find more people to fill the various roles. Also, I had the opportunity to watch the Watertown Mare wrestling team down at state last weekend, and it was incredible to see how they dominated and very impressive to watch. So congratulations to them, and then also to the 3 Central High School wrestlers who also made it to state. And then the final community announcement, fish fry season starts tomorrow, Lent season, Ash Wednesday. The Zion Benton Hill Church fish fry is this Friday, starting at 3:30 till the fish is gone. And then also the Ascension Catholic Church in North Young America, they have a fish fry this Friday from 11 to 7. So now's the time to start eating fish, Mr. Chair. That's all I have, sir.
All right, I'll eat it because I like it. Commissioner Lynch?
If I could, sir, I've always mentioned that pro sports are wonderful, but I'm much more of a fan of anything local. We have great high school sports. If you're a basketball fan, we got great basketball. As Commissioner Fahey touched on, if you're a wrestling fan, we have great wrestling. Max McAnally from Waconia is still undefeated for the Gophers, doing very, very well. Gable Stevenson is either pinned or the Gophers heavyweight is pinned or teched everyone he's wrestled. He's just absolutely dominant. It's fun to see. And then I had a chance to go down and see the Watertown Mare, I guess, and Mare Lutheran. They had a wonderful time on Thursday. They beat, who did they beat in the finals? They won their first one against Totino Grace, and then they beat Becker, and then they beat Casson Motorville 33-20. It was absolutely a lot of fun. They had 3 state champions in Joel Fredericks, Titan Fredericks, and Bryce Burkett, all undefeated seasons, which is really, really hard to do. The coach of the year was my good friend Bill McDonald and Kurt Becker, both their co-head coaches, so they were coaches of the year. It was a lot of fun, and not only that, but if you like gymnastics, Watertown Mare qualified for state for the 11th year in a row in gymnastics and placed 5th this year. And if you're going to fish fries, every Friday at St. Joe's, starting at 4 in Waconia, they have a wonderful fish fry, and it goes every Friday during Lent. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Uderman.
Well, Mr. Chair, I had a chance to be at La Academia yesterday. I had lunch with the kids. It was, they were honoring a couple people for Social Work Day. And they just shared a couple stories, and it was impressed upon me, the work that we do at the front of this room. A good chunk of that is for the people that sometimes live in the shadows of life. And there's a lot of people in the room that touch that space of social work. If they're not specifically social workers, Heather, I'm looking at you and your team. It comes in the form of law enforcement, comes in the form of the attorney's office. Peter, you and your wife are here to celebrate a good accomplishment today. And I wanted to mention that because I know that there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of work that sometimes we at the front of the board don't have a full appreciation for. And so that was a good time to be there and hear about those folks. Don't want to miss out on the fish fries or the sports updates. So Chaska Hawks women, they won a tight one against Chanhassen, and then they won in Eden Prairie at a last-minute shot. It was great. And somebody says it's not about the winning shot or not the winning shot. It's about the preparation that they took to get to that moment. And so they'll play again on Thursday night. Hopefully they'll go all the way to state. Commissioner Fahey had mentioned it. Others will continue to. There's a lot of focus on the number 7 million. At current, the governor's budget calls for us to have to come up with $7 million of unfunded state mandates that are coming our way. And had the opportunity to be in a forward vision looking moment last week at the Guthrie Theater. Greater MSP hosted a vision of what the next 25 years might look like. They are in the boardroom today. We'll get to hear from them. But I thought it was interesting because Jacob Fry isn't really a name that I'd bring up in this boardroom much. We're traditionally conservative Carver County, and Jacob is not. He represents an area that isn't. But he said in his comments at Greater MSP, he said, we are prime in the Minneapolis Metro to lean in to what our president has affection for, which is growth and development and projects that are here, and we are poised for that. And so I don't know that that would mean much coming from voices of people that come from conservative Carver County, but when Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, says that, it kind of made me stop and realize that we can bitch, moan, and complain about where we're at right now. We can like it or we don't have to like it, but our future can be growth, and we're very well positioned to do so. So when the conversations in many counties and cities and townships will be how do we cut, I hope that in Carver County, a lot of our conversation is how do we look to the future? And some of your comments, Nick, were part of that as well. And so I'll be at the Capitol tomorrow. I've been at the Capitol regularly as part of Legislative Priority Committee. I don't count my success based on how many meetings I went to, how many people I talked to. And so I'm hoping that we can squeeze some of these meetings, some real substantive conversation as to how we can not only set our people up in the next couple years here in Carver County, but for the next 200 years. And these are big conversations. What does 212 look like in economic development? What does it look like as we're attracting and retaining people? And we're having substantive conversations about the 600 building, what the future looks like. And so those are my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
All right. Well, last week, or a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week already, I was able to meet with many members of the county attorney's office. He took me around, had a nice conversation with Peter. He gave me good advice as I move forward, and we're going to miss you. And it's so nice to meet your wife. And I think that the packed boardroom is because of you, and that's a real lesson to your leadership. So thank you, and I know you're coming up, so it's kind of Peter Ivy Day here in Carver County, which is fine. We're all about it. I also had a chance to kind of tour the county assessor's office and also the land records, a lot of records. So it's been interesting kind of seeing how things happen behind the curtain, and I'm just always so impressed with the members of this, or our employees in this county, and how much they care about their jobs, and quite frankly, jobs that I think would be really hard to do. So I'm thankful for them. I also got a chance to see Commissioner Fahey in action on the County Planning Commission. So they were kind enough to give me a very short meeting to attend as I kind of see that process. And one of the items that we voted on in consent agenda was part of that. I also attended 2 open houses, one for 41 and 10, for Highway 41 and 10, and the other one for 82nd Street. And I'm grateful that this county prioritizes getting feedback and communicating to our constituents, and pretty much blown away by just how our employees handle that. and there's a lot of people very concerned about I heard it a lot, 4 roundabouts in 1 mile on Engler. And yet I feel like our employees really took those comments and were positive and receptive to that. So thank you for that. And then finally, I had a chance to meet with Deb Barber from the Met Council and learn a little bit more about that and how we work together. And then attended the Minnesota Mosquito Control District Board meeting and saw their strategic plan for the future and their vision of helping people enjoy the outdoors. And speaking of that, today is Fat Tuesday. Many of you mentioned that. And so what that means, in addition to fish fries, is biking, golfing, kayaking, and all the outdoor amenities that our people can enjoy because of the beautiful Carver County. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have a whole lot to say. The Minnewaska Regional Park off-leash dog area, which is very, very popular, closed 4 to 6 weeks so we can clean out all the dead and falling down green ash and other trees. It's going to take a while, not a cheap project. A lot of us are talking about the budget, including Mr. Schultz. And we had what I would call headwinds for our 2026 budget anyway, let alone what we think the legislature is going to do or try to do to us. We're going to find out how good the budget is and our revenue intake is, I believe, tomorrow. So we'll know a lot more. People are not optimistic about that. And I think we need to get in print for taxpayers what it is this board and most of your local taxing authorities do. And that is the budget process for 2026 is really already started, but it starts in earnest in May. The problem I see is that people kind of wake up around early September when we do the preliminary levy, which is a product of the work we do from May through the summer. And we give a early peek in September about what the increase or not increase in taxes, reduction in taxes could be. My point is, I think people need to get a little more involved earlier. So in May, we kind of kick it off. The county administrator kicks that off with our staff. In June is the Board of Equalization. That's a part of the equation that levy is multiplied by, for lack of a better word. So Board of Equalization is what I call Property Degradation Day, where people come in and tell us what a lousy home they live in and that their home shouldn't be assessed so high. Mostly people come in and complain about the budget. Well, that meeting is another time in December, so there's some confusion about that. So throughout the summer, the board will be working to try and bring things under control, aiming for that preliminary levy date in September. That usually isn't a very happy number. It's maybe a little bit higher because it's high because we don't have all the information, and the number can go down. It cannot go up, but it can go down. So from early September to about Truth and Taxation Day at the beginning of December, we continue to work to try and keep it down. The final budget is passed usually on the last meeting in December. So it's a long process. What I see as a problem is people come in way at the end, and the input is maybe hard to take because we've been sort of at it. It's not an excuse, but we've sort of been at it since May, April. And so be involved early, and I think we'll do all right. Again, if I was in the legislature, I would look back to 2023 and say, wow, we had $18 billion in extra dollars and we spent them all and we increased taxes, and maybe we need to go back and address what it is we did in 2023 and back up on some of this stuff. But that's just my small voice for my friends at the legislature. So, but it's going to be a very difficult year. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your ideas. Always appreciated, and let's get on with the rest of the meeting. Thank you. All right, consent agenda.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
A motion by Lynch and a second by Fahey for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, the reason we're all here.
Yes.
Item 3.1, recognition of Peter Ivy, Chief Deputy County Attorney.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners and audience, my name is Mark Metz. I'm the County Attorney, and it's really an honor to recognize a legend of Carver County today. Peter Ivy is retiring with an illustrious career of 37 years in the Carver County Attorney's Office. He got to the County Attorney's Office in 1988, and he hasn't left yet. Peter represents the very best of Carver County. He has dedicated his entire career to public service. He's represented himself throughout those years with integrity, with compassion, and with commitment. He really does epitomize Carver County with his collaboration, his professionalism, and his unwavering commitment, even as he's about a week out before he retires. And as a prosecutor, because that's the heart of who Peter is, he has preached and practiced the principle that there is a difference between what we can do and what we should do. Peter has always done what has been right, and it's really difficult for me to imagine any other employee who has done more to enhance public safety for this community in Carver County than Peter Ivy. He has a distinguished career. He's received some accolades throughout his career at the County Attorneys Association, which is a statewide organization of the 87 counties. Peter received the Meritorious Service Award. He served on the Minnesota Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility, which is essentially the ethics of attorneys. He did that for 6 years, volunteered his work and his experience and his knowledge. He was the chair of the Ethics Committee for the County Attorneys Association and started that. So he has a really great and impactful career, and most importantly on the people that he's affected and the colleagues, and that is representative of his colleagues here who have come to support him, I know who are watching. But I know Peter would also say that he couldn't do it without his colleagues and with the people and with Carver County and with the support of the commissioners. But really importantly, too, is his family. And so I wanted to recognize his wife, Susan Ivy, who is here, and she really has been a huge supporter and a commitment for Peter. And people know that when you're a prosecutor and you're dealing with these difficult cases and these long days and nights and the stress, you need the support of your family. So thanks, Susan. So now I'd like to ask the Honorable Mike Wenzel to speak and say a few words, and then the Sheriff, Jason Camerood.
Morning, Judge.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Mike Wenzel, and I'm a district court judge here in Carver County. And Peter hired me in 1997 as a law clerk, and then hired me again in 2000 as a line prosecutor. I'm honored to stand here before you today and recognize the remarkable career of Peter Ivy, who's dedicated 37 years of service to Carver County. His contributions to the office of the Carver County Attorney, to our justice system, and to this community are nothing short of extraordinary. Throughout his career, Peter has embodied the highest standards of integrity. He's known for frequently citing chapter and verse of the rules of professional responsibility to the number, ensuring that every decision he makes is grounded in fairness and a commitment to justice. His unwavering dedication to upholding the law has been a guiding light for countless prosecutors, including myself, who have had the privilege of learning from him. Peter handles cases with a firm but fair approach, ensuring that justice is served while recognizing the humanity of those involved. He's a formidable prosecutor, yet even the defense attorneys who stand across from him in the courtroom universally hold him in the highest regard. They know that when they work with Peter, they will get an outcome that is principled and just. Public safety is always in the forefront of Peter's mission. He works tirelessly to protect this community, ensuring that those who threaten its well-being are held accountable. But he also understands that justice is not just about punishment. It's about fairness, proportionality, and seeking resolutions that serve the greater good. Carver County has long been known as a place where justice partners collaborate and work through their differences with mutual respect. And this reputation did not happen by accident. It was built by people like Peter. His leadership and commitment to teamwork have played an integral role in making our justice system one that other counties try to emulate. Peter, your legacy will endure in the lives that you have impacted, the colleagues that you have mentored, and the community that you have protected. Carver County is a better place because of your service. I wish you the best in retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff, are you next?
I am, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jason Camrood, Carver County Sheriff. And I am jazzed to be here today to talk about Peter's 37-year career with Carver County. I had some prepared notes like Mark Metz and Judge Wenzel had, but I was prepared for a roast. And so I'm gonna have to pivot and do this a little bit differently. You know, Peter started in 1988 and I started in 1990 and was assigned to the Drug Task Force pretty early in my career. And I knew nothing about search and seizure laws, and that's really kind of where those cases hinge. And Peter was kind enough to take me under his wing and teach me the ways of constitutional law. And he, year after year, he would come in and educate Sheriff's Office employees. And I think that educating our staff is really, you know, it perpetuates, right? This will go on. These cops will be here for decades to come, and they're going to be successful in large part because of the education and tutelage that you provided. And I've always appreciated our conversations as we talk through different cases and your perspective on what we could do, what we should do, how it's likely to play out in the courtroom. Those are all really helpful to me throughout the entirety of my career, and has helped me make decisions as sheriff and helping to guide the employees through cases today. And I also want to thank you for your friendship over the years, Peter. I have really enjoyed getting to know you, and you know, it's not lost on me that I'll come into your office for a 5-minute question and I'll burn up an hour of your day talking about stuff that's not related to anything we have going. But it's important to me to have those kinds of relationships, and I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you on behalf of all of us in the Sheriff's Office for your 37 years of commitment, the good work you've done, and your friendship along the way. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Do we want the board maybe to chime in at this
Sure.
time?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great idea, and I know you have a little something for Mr. Ivy, and I know everybody's excited to hear about his wisdom when you're ready to hear from him as well. And maybe you want to put the clock up for him, though.
I do have the sign. Beautiful sign. Now, he told me he's been married 35 years, so I don't know what was going on over there 35 years ago, but I'm going to give him this sign. Oh, thank you. It'll look really well outside.
No, she says.
I did think it was a roast. Does anybody have any comments on the board here? I know he's one of those, Peter's one of those smart guys you like to hang around with because he makes you feel smarter yourself, so.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is a special moment. I'd say there's two things that I really want to emphasize about my career. It really was about collaboration and camaraderie and understanding. If you disagree, you need to disagree reasonably because you're going to be meeting these people again and again and again. And the way to run government effectively is to have that communication, have that outreach, have that collaboration, agree where you can, understand if you don't agree on something, that's okay. We'll put that aside, we'll move on to things we can do. And I will miss that. It's trite to say, sure, close your ears. I won't miss reading police reports. I'm looking forward to reading for pleasure, but I will miss the people. And what those very kind comments really meant was I practiced my most important legal test. I learned from Peter Orpett, who was maybe Minnesota's finest homicide prosecutor, the big or little test. Some cases you got to absolutely hammer. Other cases, people struggle with addiction or mental illness. They need help because they're going back into the community. And we can provide the guidance and the accountability to do that. One thing you're going to be facing, you've mentioned it, is that budget coming up. I don't envy your jobs. I've seen many, many commissioners over the years. We have uniformly gotten great support from the county board. And our office is just about people. And I hope we can continue that kind of excellent relationship. One of the core functions of government, in my mind, local government, is the community members need to feel safe. Because if they don't feel safe, what else really matters to the citizens? And when you look at Minneapolis and what happened there, we've done a really good job. And I think a lot of the credit goes back to you, Dave Hemsey, and all the employees at Carver County. So thank you very much. I'm most appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody from the board have a comment?
If I could,
Commissioner Lynch.
our county attorney Metz used the first word to describe him was integrity. So whenever you saw something that Mr. Ivy wrote across your desk, you go, who'd that come from? Ivy. Oh, darn it, it's right. So I wish you well in your future and have many hobbies. I don't think it's going to be as an interior designer, though, if you're going to hang that over your bed. But anyway, good luck. It's an honor. It's been an honor serving with you.
Commissioner Fahey.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Congratulations, Peter. Just on behalf of my brother Mike and I, we're very proud of you. So, job, great done, and happy retirement to you and to your wife, Susan.
Commissioner Ruderman.
Well, Metz doesn't hand out compliments just off the cuff, and so I just wanted to echo some of the things that he said because he knows you way better than I do. Legend, the best, dedicated public servant. I think sometimes we forget you could have made a lot more money elsewhere, but you chose to be here. Integrity, compassion, ethical, and then yeah, I don't know when people come in when they go. When I first met you, I was like, this guy's got 20 years left, and I was wrong. But in the last couple of years, you dove into something, and it turned out to be late career, where it wasn't easy to flip the technology that you tackled, and it wasn't easy, and you did it. And I think it's if I can uplift the tail end of your career, you were working right to the absolute end on behalf of the residents and citizens here, and I think that needs to be elevated. And it wasn't something simple; it was something that took a lot of energy away from your day job, and you did it, I think, to pave the way for your colleagues, so it'd be just a little bit easier for them. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
I'd like to direct my comments to Susan. I see the pride in your face when they talk about your husband, and it's well-deserved. And thank you. I think working in the public sector is a sacrifice both for Peter and for you. And so thank you for sharing him with us. And I really hope you put him to good work at home. And really, I want you to work as hard at enjoying retirement as he did, as you both did, during your work. And Peter, you are a great public servant, and thank you for your commitment to both Carver County and this community. Carver County is better because of you. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Anderson, you just described why Mrs. Workman is not allowed in the county boardroom. The folded arms, the toe tapping, the squinting, kind of the opposite of that. But Peter, thank you. Big shoes to fill. To all the people you prosecuted, they probably felt like they got a good deal. Shouldn't have done what they did, but here's to them. And I can't think of a bigger goal. I know the tax bill is the tax bill, but public safety is the big deal. And you'd think out here in the fourth ring, fifth ring suburbs, we'd figure out what not to do from looking at the first and second and third rings. And that is a goal of ours, to not just have to put up with it. And so thank you for all you did, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and thank you, and I have no intention of moving to Carver County.
Well, good.
Excellent.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much, guys. And thanks for everybody coming to say hello. All right. Item 3.2, Greater MSP presentation.
Apparently that crowd wasn't here for me.
You know, are you the Speaker Johnson? We got that Speaker Johnson look from Congress. You familiar?
Oh, well, no, I'm not
Somebody
trying to.
else in the room, I thought, is that the look now? I gotta have to get
I
some
don't know. That
glasses.
was just what happened this morning in my closet.
Well, you look, it was a compliment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, commissioners, staff, good morning. My name is Peter Frosch. I'm the CEO of the Greater MSP Partnership, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today. Carver County is an important part of this regional partnership. We've had some real success together over the past several years, jobs and private investment and additional tax revenue, and even bigger things are now possible. So I look forward to talking to you about that today. Would it make the most sense to just do a short presentation and then entertain questions?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Peter, I think Colin can give you the clicker if you want to move.
Oh,
I'll grab it.
great. Thank you. So let's just kind of run over some basics for about 10 minutes and then hopefully have a little back and forth. So what is this all about? Greater MSP is a public-private partnership focused on economic development. So while there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, it's about creating really good jobs for people who live in this region and growing the private investment so we can have more commercial industrial tax revenue in every city and county in the region. The best way, really the only way to do this, because we're competing against places like Boston and Chicago and Phoenix and Nashville and actually other countries, is to work together. And so this region, leaders in the region, built this partnership about 14 years ago. And it functions kind of like a co-op. So Minnesota has a proud tradition of cooperatives where people kind of step in together, make something so they can do together what they can't do alone. And that's the idea of Greater MSP. It's not an association where we represent entities. Most of the entities in this page don't agree on very much. The one thing everyone does seem to agree on is, you know, we need to grow this economy so there's more opportunity for people who live here. You know, they see that we can do that best together. So every part of this partnership has a different reason that they step into it. You know, our chair, Christoph Beck, who's the CEO of Ecolab, he's actually a resident of Carver County. The reason Ecolab is a part of Greater MSP is different than why counties and cities are. For cities and counties, it has a lot to do, and this is, you know, lays out some of the reasons, but the main reason is tax revenue. That it's one of the few ways to play offense on the budget. And I, resonate with the conversation that was happening earlier. This is kind of the season that we're entering in the state and cities and counties. And I've seen that before, and it makes it all the more reason to be adding to budgets by growing, expanding companies we have here, bringing more companies here. And that's a proven way, an efficient way to bolster public budgets without raising taxes. So essentially, that's what we're aiming to do together. Over the past number of years, we've had a lot of success here in Carver County. There are 11 wins going back a series of years, which add up to a significant amount of over $180 million of additional private investment, and over 1,000 new and retained jobs, in different cities around the county. The great thing about these wins is you celebrate them once, but they show up in the budget every year. And that's the important part, where cities and counties are concerned. This work continues. I'm excited to say there are 2 active projects that we're working on together in the county right now, both manufacturing, and those manufacturing projects are strong revenue opportunities for public entities. What we do as a partnership, you can boil it down kind of 3 categories. One, you have to know how the region's doing. How are we performing as an economy? And not from any political lens, but just what are the facts? And so that's one of the things that we do as the Grimsby Partnership. We have, analysis, and we have a lot of tools that actually the county can take advantage of as well. AI tools, databases, as much or more than the state itself, to get good answers to how we're performing. Then we have to have a plan to win. So given all of that, how is this place, this whole region, going to compete and win in the national and global economy? And then the most important part is going and doing it. And that's the action component. Coming at that just another way, Greater MSP is kind of like, it's the hub for all this work in the region and the economy. So we've kind of, over the years, built up a lot of ability to do things together. It's on the left-hand side. It's a little bit like the Amazon of the economy. So you can go one place and get done what you need to get done. And on the right-hand side, we've learned by doing this together year on year for over a decade, how to build. We're not just doing deals, which are important, but we're building new economies. And on this page, the CHIPS Coalition and semiconductor industry, MedTech 3.0 and the medical technology industry, protein sustainability, biomanufacturing, these are all fast-growing parts of the global economy where we've created big strategies to win as a place that Carver County is well-positioned to grow in. We've had, going back the last 3 years, we just announced last week, Commissioner Uterman was mentioning this event at the Guthrie. So, we beat our job goal of over 4,500, good new and retained jobs, and over 200% of our goal in capital investment. So $2.4 billion of additional private investment across this region. You can see some of the breakdown there. That was 47 different wins in 17 different cities. And it doesn't include some other projects that we're now supporting in outside of the region, across the state of Minnesota, as the things that we're building continue to get bigger. So there's a $5 billion project in Moorhead that we're working on, a new biorefinery. You can see here, how those deals are landing across the region. And so we're now in the process of setting the next 3-year goal. And that's something that we are doing with cities and counties who are partners in this work. It's important to recognize that this is not a distribution effort, it's a go and win it effort. We start at 0, and we as a region have to go and create these jobs. And so we're working with cities and counties with their strategies and their goals and their aims to say, what are you trying to do? And then we're going to roll that up and build it together. So if we pull back and say, what does the opportunity look like for this region? Kind of roughly fits into 3 big categories in digital technology, med and health technology, kind of clean and green technology. The state of Minnesota, this region isn't positioned to win in everything in the global economy in the 21st century, but these are areas where we are positioned to win. And so we've built mechanisms. These aren't programs or initiatives. They're kind of vehicles that we created in the Greater Mississippi Partnership with dozens and dozens of different partners, private sector, universities, cities and counties, to go in, seize this opportunity around the country and the world. And we're having some, significant success there. And this year, there's an opportunity in Carver County to be connecting and kind of leveraging these really big opportunities in semiconductors and microelectronics and med tech, and then sustainable aviation fuel and the bioeconomy to be growing the economy in the county. So, when everybody likes a win, and, it took several years to get to the point, for instance, where Polar Semiconductor in Bloomington had everything it needed to grow. They announced that they're going to be doubling their production facility there. And because of that, you may know that Polar Semiconductor is a fabrication facility. They make semiconductors in our region just down the road. And there is a ecosystem of suppliers around this facility. Because Polar's growing, they can also grow, and there are opportunities with companies that exist in Carver County today because of this win. So the point being, as we succeed as a region, one win creates opportunities in other places. You see some of the partners on the left-hand side in this MedTech 3.0 effort. It's about big companies, health systems. The Mayo Clinic is really important in this. We won a designation federally as America's technology hub for medical technology, and we're now building on that work in the state and around the country and the world. And this sustainable aviation fuel hub, Delta Airlines came to Greater Mississippi a couple of years ago and said, we've got a really big problem to solve, and we're not sure how to solve it. We're committed to being zero carbon by 2050. The only way to get there is by getting rid of the fossil fuel in our jet fuel, because there are no electric airplanes for many, many, many decades to come. And don't get on one if you're offered a ride. And he said, technically, you could make jet fuel out of all kinds of things. And we've been trying to solve this problem globally, and nothing's happening. And we're wondering if we can work together on this. I was having a lunch with this person from Delta. I said, are you talking about building an entirely new industry from scratch? And he said, yes. And that sounded a little much at the time, but we started working on it. And 2 years later, we've created the world's most advanced effort to displace fossil fuel-based jet fuel and create up to 40,000 jobs across the state of Minnesota by making jet fuel out of biogas, corn, green hydrogen. You can even make it out of CO2. So, this is kind of big innovation kind of stuff. As we think about Carver this year and in the next 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, there are a couple really big lanes of opportunity that we're already working on. One is to build strength where you already have strength. And that's kind of what economic development is about. What are you good at? What assets do you have? And then build on that to get more. And you have here a microelectronics supply chain, these companies specifically, one of which there's an active project that we're working to support right now. And there could be more of this. Then there's a new opportunity in a whole new field called biomanufacturing. This sustainable jet fuel I was talking about is a biomanufactured product, but there's many, many, many billions of dollars of opportunity to make everything from cosmetics to car parts not using fossil fuels and instead using like cellulosic inputs. That this county is well positioned geographically to pull these kind of biomaterials from out, the southwestern part of the state in central Minnesota, and then have facilities here that do both research and clean manufacturing to turn that into things. That's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm not talking about even corn. I'm talking about corn husks you just need the cellulosic material. So this is, cutting edge global stuff. We're working with universities, working with partners around the world, and that's part of what, it's all about when we work together. It's hard for any county or city to be connected nationally and globally the way you need to find these opportunities and compete, but that's the idea. By working together, we can do that. So to seize these opportunities, it's really just about kind of doubling down on both dialogue and kind of sleeves rolled up partnership, to have conversations about what is the county looking for? How does the county want to win? How is the county looking to grow? And we say, okay, given that, here's what's possible, and we kind of just put all the tools on the table and get to work. So I appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation and look forward to questions and hopefully lots of dialogue after today.
Well, thank you, Peter. Questions? Commissioner Uterman?
Well, I sit on the Greater MSP board. If any of this comes as a surprise to you, it shouldn't, because Peter's made himself available. Amanda's in the room too. Award-winning Amanda Taylor, named the economic development person of the state, was at the state recently. I'm sure many of you guys have met Amanda. She was out here a couple years ago for something that we called the Carver Commerce Corridor Tour. And at that time, she gave us a full report, given her expertise working with Duke Energy and other areas, dozens and dozens of other companies. She delivered what would have been a $30,000 report. If I summarize the report that she gave to us, it said you have low-hanging fruit when it comes to agritourism, and you have low-hanging fruit as it comes to unlocking the potential of 212 after $300 million of investment was made. And so just a little history. I joined the board really passionate about growing the tax base that doesn't overly burden small businesses and residential people. And so, of course, it was natural for me to migrate towards Greater MSP and learn a lot. And I was the first one that said, that's 30 grand, are we getting our values worth? I think there was a lot of murmurs of those darn Greater MSP people. What are we sending that money over there for? And so I joined the board. I don't think we had a board seat at the time. And you guys said, yeah, we should bring you on board. I think we were the first to do the Commerce Tour. I think there's three other counties that are doing the same, taking a page from our book. When we asked something of you, you delivered it, and you did more than that. You came back to us and said, here's some other things that you weren't aware of. I've made the effort on behalf of our board to be in those conversations and bring it to a forefront. I've painted vision that we can unlock the potential of 212 to the tune of $50 billion of increased economic activity in the next 25 years to 2050. And we are right on the precipice of doing so. And so, historically speaking, we had 3 board members that voted not to be part of Greater MSP previous to January. We had Lisa join our board in January. In the past, board chair was not interested in having you come speak. And so that was a window that we all agreed to say, let's bring Peter here. Let's bring Greater MSP here. Let's talk to them and get their questions answered. Candidly, some of the questions I couldn't answer. And so I'd be surprised if there's not a lot of questions to be had. One of those questions is the relationship with DEED. We talk about Greater MSP being a lead generation group and a tool. Well, DEED gives us our leads. We've talked about, man, that's expensive. We haven't really seen a deal. I think you answered that question today. We've talked about the potential of what comes to the future. And I think you've candidly said, and Amanda's echoed, that we are prime, given that investment on 212, to unlock the potential of that. We have a board is at a conversation as to where does that membership sit. Traditionally, it sit within our CDA, Community Development Agency, which does a fantastic job when it comes to housing, but recently have said, I don't know if we're in the economic development space. And so does that money sit within CDA or does it sit someplace else? So what's on the table right now is to budget for that in future years. What's on the table now is to take that membership fee out of a commissioner contingency budget. What's on the table now is for us to make a decision. Is it worth it or is it not worth it? And if we chose to go that path, I think the first slide said it probably the best. I mean, you look at all these different companies that are on here, 2 of them that were corporate CEOs with Mortensen and Ecolab that are fighting the good fight as residents. I think it really comes down to how is Carver County to work with? And sometimes we say not so great. And you guys give us a tool in the tool belt. I'm full-throated support of it. And I don't want to be the only county that doesn't participate, not just from a defensive strategy, but from the offense that's going to be before us in the next 20 years. Last thing before the other folks are able to ask questions, but we've got in the room Steve, who's our Southwest Chamber member, executive director, and I know you've been supportive of him in this space as well. There's only so many memberships you can chase, so many sandwich shops and schools that you can support. We're not talking about those type of businesses. You do a nice job of that. We're talking about 50 to 100+ million dollar opportunities here in Carver County. So I don't have any questions. I think you're here to answer those questions if my peers have those, but I wanted to throw out some of those that have surfaced. It might be beneficial too to have the folks hear your relationship with Congressman McCollum and how you've worked at the national level, and how if we can't get our heads wrapped around the economic benefit of this, how that means for us politically at the national level when it comes to relationships with Klobuchar and Emmer and Betty as well.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So Commissioner Uterman brought up other counties that you've worked with. Can you help me understand how you've worked at those counties? Have those been within their CDA organization, or has it been directly with the county?
Every county does it differently, for better or worse. So some counties have different structures. So Scott, for instance, has a scale model where all of their cities are integrated into kind of one economic partnership. Ramsey County, I mean, it's different in every place. So we have to take the lead, for how counties choose to organize. So that is obviously entirely up to you. We're glad to kind of share how other places do it. And I've been doing this for 12 years at Greater MSP, and I've seen a lot of change, over that time. People experiment with different models. The thing that seems to be most important is just the kind of engagement. So we've tried to say, to really unlock the value that I think counties are needing and looking for economically. It's about at least once a year doing something like this. That's important for accountability and visibility. We also have at least one work session where we get together with some commissioners and senior staff, and that's an opportunity for the county to say, okay, here's our plan. This is what we're trying to do. These are our needs. This is what we think our assets are. These are our questions. And then we say, okay, given that, here's what the opportunity looks like for the whole region. And we come out of those sessions with the handful of these are the specific things that we're going to do together or try to do together. And then sometimes there are specific information needs that come out of that we then fulfill. And then it's just, this is not a once or twice a year kind of thing. I mean, we're doing this every day, every night, every weekend, all the time. And so, we're working a deal all last weekend. It never stops. So being in dialogue with both commissioners and staff on a regular basis is really important. And, since we have about 25 full-time staff and 350 different active partners just in this region, much less the country and the world, kind of the way it has to work is, we'll try to call you too. And we have. There's a project that's going on now in Norwood Young America that, we hadn't heard from the county. We knew about a rail service site. We reached out, some connectivity was made. We're now pursuing that, so that's very positive. And, we're really looking for you to call and email and ask questions, and we want to be very responsive to that. Just practically, it's difficult to show up proactively multiple times a year, times 350. So that's that co-op concept that we want you to understand. You own part of this thing. You have keys to the house, and when folks act like owners, then it really works.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And many of those companies that you showed on that first page are companies I was either employed with or have consulted with. So really great organizations, and I appreciate that. I think that first of all, local politics is a team sport, and economic development is part of that. Allison is in the room with the CDA, and she had a really nice event with the other towns, our city partners, and asked about, our involvement, the CDA's involvement in economic development. And one by one, each of those cities felt like it's their role to be involved in economic development. And we're comfortable with the CDA walking side by side with them. I appreciate what you do. I think that you do great work. I think personally, for me, this is not the role of the county at this moment in time. We have some groundwork to do. And we also are embarking on an a strategic plan that's going to help identify what our priorities are as a county and whether or not we get in the economic development space or not. So again, thank you for being here. I think you do great work. For me at this point, this is not the space that the county is in for me at this point. But thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Commissioner Fahey?
Sure. Peter, you were talking about the various counties and the cities. I noticed that Hennepin County is not on this list.
Yep, Hennepin is on the list. Yep.
If I missed it somewhere in the fine print, but, so Hennepin County is a member of Greater MSP.
Yep. Yep.
And the other metro cities that are involved in general, most of the metro cities are members of Greater MSP.
Some.
I'm the liaison back to the CDA board, and we have talked about, or the CDA board has talked about this at length now for probably about 8 to 10 months. And it's my understanding that the CDA has reached out to you and has looked for some metrics with wanting the different ROI and what is the return on investment for the 30,000 every year. And we struggle to get that information because it hasn't come yet in front of the CDA board.
That would be news to me. There have been conversations, and I'm very glad to be here today, and I'm offering data. And if we're ready today, tonight, to provide whatever information is sought. I have to admit, I don't know which boards to speak to most directly, but we'll get that information, absolutely. And if there was any breakdown, our apologies.
Because you talk about, being the dialogue and being responsive, and we just haven't seen that on the CDA board. And so if that's something that can be overcome in the future, that's going to have to be talked about. And you talk about the various wins in Carver County. You had mentioned here Lakeview Industries, and mainly that it's my understanding from talking to people in the city of Carver that that whole lead came from the whole deed aspect of it. You had mentioned that Greater MSP works behind the scenes with deed. Is that the relationship, or does deed bring the leads in and Greater MSP works with the marketing aspect of it, or what's the relationship there?
So we have a working relationship with Deed on a few levels. Sometimes we're sourcing leads. I was in the Netherlands 11 days ago, sourcing leads out of Eindhoven and Rotterdam and Amsterdam for the region. Sometimes Deed sources leads, sometimes it's Medical Alley. There are multiple steps in the process. There are dozens of things that it takes to find a lead and then take that to a win, some of which are within, partners' control and some of which aren't. Ultimately, it's the company who makes the decision where to go. But a lead is part of that, and we share leads with Deed and vice versa. So that's part of that relationship.
Thank you. On one of your slides, you talk about the benchmark and the performance against a set of the peer regions. What's your example of some of those peer regions?
So peer regions that we track include Charlotte, Austin, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, Atlanta, among others. So those are the places we're competing with in the U.S. We're also competing globally. So that's just the nature of what it takes to find those opportunities and win them.
Thank you. And then in regards to the strategy part, you state that you set objectives. Are those objectives set by the Greater MSP board, Or is it set by like you and Amanda, for example, and your team?
It's a good question. So right now, for instance, we're, setting job goals, job and capital investment goals. And those are, based on what we just learned over the past 3 years about what's possible, and then a lot of intelligence about what the pipeline looks like. We're working about 50 active projects right now. And then we will bring that to a team. So it goes through a series of steps to create the right numbers, like a range. And then that's something we would talk with the board about. So it's certainly far more than myself and Amanda.
Just one of my final comments then, and Commissioner Anderson had touched upon that. We had just gone through a strategic summit with the CDA and various partners from all the cities, and it was interesting to hear overwhelmingly that all of those cities want to be their own individual leaders, and they want the CDA to be a partner. For example, the city of Chaska, they want to be the quarterback, and they want the CDA just to come along with and to help guide that mission. But mainly the whole economic development piece was falling into those cities. And they wanted the county just to, I don't want to say be in the backstop, but to help move forward with it. And participating in various CDA meetings, and we just really struggled with this relationship, Peter, on what have we gotten? And what is the ROI? And the lack of the responsiveness from what we've been told, and not getting the various metrics. We've asked for the metrics. And so that was guiding a lot of my decision of not supporting the greater MSP, and to continue to put 30,000 and not see the return on our investment, and to do that for 10 years in a row. When we look at the budget and we're people, why are you doing that, John? And I don't have an answer back for him. And so that's where I'm still not in support of.
Well, I appreciate those comments. I think we do have answers back. We have numbers and deals and over $100 million and over 1,000 jobs, and those are facts. There's dollars flowing every year into the county budget. There's more that's possible. There may have been a miscommunication on some of the information that was requested, because we have a very strong track record at responding. We'd be, again, very eager to provide that information. I think the facts are here, and the opportunity is growing. What you described regarding city-county relationships is not uncommon. I mean, we've had those conversations in Anoka, we've had those conversations in Dakota. This is to some extent the nature of city-county conversations in the region. But I think the point is, to win, you need a team. Going back to the wrestling teams that were discussed earlier, this is a team sport, and no one can do it alone. Cities have land. The state has some money. And then you need everybody kind of doing their bit. And one of the things that the counties do is they provide some collective funding. Greater MSP does not, funded by the state. It is something that everybody opts in to create together. And it can go away. And then if that occurs, then everyone will be worse off, which is why it was created in the first place. And so counties, we've worked to actually hold the public sector contributions steady for over a decade. And so I know what it would look like for your county services if your levy didn't increase for 12 years. But that's what we have done in Greater MSP, because we know how difficult it is. And we have increased the budget. We doubled the budget over the past 5 years using almost entirely private sector dollars. So every dollar that Carver invests is leveraged by about 335 to 1, which is a powerful leverage, given that the result is increased revenue into the budget. I mean, these are just kind of like the nuts and bolts of it, right? So we find that the counties, the easiest, least expensive model for counties is doing it the way we're doing it, where everyone pays a steady, it's not an insignificant amount of money for the county, I acknowledge that, and it's far less than it actually takes. If Dakota County and the other counties are less enthusiastic about having their taxpayer dollars going to support work that we're doing in Carver County, and so, which you can understand. And so this model where all the counties participate is important. The other model is more complicated and will probably be a lot more expensive. So if we can, I'd really like to hold, this version of the public-private partnership model. We're down to about 17% of the overall funding coming from cities and counties. So almost 90% comes from private sources. And that's because that's where we're trying to focus on pulling those resources, so it's less burdensome on cities and counties.
Anybody else?
I'd love to hear from more, but I got a couple comments, if I may.
Okay.
I think we're setting a bar that the level of scrutiny on this $30,000 is probably warranted. I think I heard from Commissioner Fahey that we've got this partnership and at least in his estimation, hasn't seen the value in 10 years, no ROI. And so I think we've put a line in the sand that anything that we've contributed as a board that's $30,000 or more, maybe even $108,000, should come into great scrutiny as to what are we seeing for an ROI. And so I can agree with Commissioner Fahey on that. And so I know that we contribute to a number of organizations that may be surplus generating that we're contributing to. I think we need you, Peter, more than you need us right now. And I think we probably need you more than we need you more than you need us for the next 10 years. And I think it's fair to say in conversations that I've had that the partners that are at the table that have like land, tie typically goes to the folks that are cooperative partners and that are at the table. And so if we choose not to participate, I would imagine that investment in the leads that the pharmaceutical company that would probably bring a $500 million investment here and several thousand jobs, and the investment a little bit further west and the corridor with the train rail. It may be an easier partner to have the 3 or 4 other members that are part of that to receive that lead in the future. I think those are things that when we're talking about $30,000 are short-sighted, but they're real, right? If you have a lead and you have 5 opportunities, you're probably going to go to your 4 members first. And so I certainly wouldn't want this day to pass without us knowing that we're cutting off our nose in spite of ourselves at an economic time when the 2050 comp plan is upon us. When at least and I can speak to this in the last few months, knocking on 9,000 doors 3 times, the number one thing that was full-throated saying was, we can't afford to live here. The taxes are too high. We need relief. And I think I'm one of the few that's brought pragmatic options to the table to say, we need to grow our non-residential tax base. And if we're saying no to greater MSP, and if we're saying no to economic development within CDA, and if we're saying no to tourism, then I would love to hear from my peers while we're having this conversation. What the hell are we going to do to lighten the load on residential consumers? I know that I talk to teachers every single day that can't afford to live here if they're not living with mom and dad or first-time school teacher, right? Steve, you can give us example after example after example that unless you're making $100,000 a year, you cannot afford to live here. Unless you bought your house 5 years ago before the interest rates went up, you can't afford to live here. And so if not greater MSP, then what are the answers of my peers on the board? And the last thing I say often, and I'll say it again, is Henry Ford made the quote, is if you would have asked somebody what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. I don't think anybody showed up in a horse today, right? And so if we go back to the cities and the counties and they say no because this is the way we've always done it, we will never realize the potential of unlocking the 212 as it was intended with a $300 million investment. And I don't think we've drug Lyndon in here or his peers or the state folks to deliver an ROI on $300 million. $300 million. And I don't think we've gotten even close to a 1-to-1 return on that yet. We can, and with your support, I think we can get there faster. And so that's my plea. I think most of this conversation is not about the facts. And I think Peter echoed, if you look at the facts, they're there. If you don't want to look at the facts, you won't see them. So those are my final comments.
Well, I think we're here too early. I don't have any doubt about several things. One, that our CDA is not going to be in the economic development business. That's fine. They're landlords and they do a great job at what they do. But I don't think Carver County does know exactly what it wants to do. I've been able to have the long historical view of this county, and back when I got involved 40 years ago, and you looked at a map of the metro, we were the green county sitting there waiting, and I was probably a little bit champing at the bit like Commissioner Uterman. What do you mean 1 in 40? What do you mean we're not developed? How come everybody else is developing and we were sort of the reserve bank of land and save the ag land and wait it out. And so we sort of had. The problem is exactly that. Is it, how can we develop? So that is the job, and that pipe and that water and sewer pipe. As I've told Commissioner Uterman, what do you know about the Musa line? What do you know about expanding sewer and water all the way down 212? This is not a small concept, and they're not doing it down 169. It's happening, development is happening at Shakopee, which is a municipality, but we can't make or even have a township develop the infrastructure that Carver County in itself would need to get the $1 billion outfit. So you're restricted to the city. And so that's why we say the city, I think we as the county need to develop further what it is. I don't prefer to just sit and wait and watch. I don't have anything bad to say about MSP. I think your track record and the support you have from our biggest and best corporations and cities and counties speaks for itself. And I'm not going to say 30,000 isn't a lot of money, but I think in the realm of what it is you guys do, it probably does look a little bit small. So, but I think if I had my druthers, I would lay this on the table as we used to do at the legislature. I don't know if the chair can lay an item on the table, because I don't know that we're gonna renew this at this time, but I fear making a decision about MSP and economic development in Carver County when we're standing at the precipice of the future is perhaps not the right way to go. So maybe that sounds wishy-washy, but I get the power of MSP. Everybody in their roles. I've watched the Chanhassen-Chaska healthy competition for industrial development. My old buddy Todd Gerhardt on there, and but I think, and as we get more in, our next item is about strategic planning. As Commissioner Anderson said, I think it is a part of that. So I think we are maybe just a bit too early to have this discussion. I think don't we technically have a membership until maybe June or July or something? I don't know how long that runs.
End of last year.
It ended last June or July.
Is it?
December.
Or I'm sorry,
December
December.
31st.
Last year, yes.
And so I don't know in my own mind it is a big question about where is this county going. And frankly, it's always flummoxed me a little bit, but the county just sort of gets to follow behind the cities and build the county roads and deal with the human services needs and other for how the cities want to expand. They get all the fun and the excitement, and we get to sweep up in behind. But these economic issues are really big, and if there's a way to look at it a little bit more as a whole, I I think we need to maybe get those economic development directors in for a work session and say, how can we help? And how can MSP help? And how is it helping? And because, like I said, I've been involved a long time. And I remember the dirt roads. And so it's happened. We've grown. But how can we maybe do it a little bit better? And so it's up to the board. We can take a vote and say no now, or we can, because I'm suspecting the board isn't interested in proceeding with MSP at this point. And it doesn't mean we can't come back, but I think we've got a lot to learn about the whole of the organism that is Carver County. So, anybody got any ideas? You want to take an up and down vote? Do you want to lay it on the table? Commissioner Uterman, you want to take an up and down vote?
Would love to. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Do I have a
Mr.
motion?
Chairman, in a second for it to move forward. And-
Right.
And just reading from the packet, it said, motion to amend the 2025 budget to include $30,000 for greater MSP membership funded by 2025 Commissioner Contingency Fund.
Okay, so that's a motion by Commissioner Uterman. Or do you want to, we can change the motion.
You can. That was just in the packet of.
Okay, I'll second the motion, the Uterman motion as read by Attorney Metz. Any discussion? Commissioner Lynch.
I think we've had a great conversation here. I thought Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Fahey, and yourself all had wonderful comments. I'd like to thank Peter for coming here today. I have nothing derogatory to say about the greater MSP, but at this time, I simply think that we should perhaps take a break from the greater MSP till we'll, to your point, to actually find out what our role in economic development is. So.
Chair Workman, I would agree. I think that it's just premature. Again, local politics is a team sport. Right now, our teammates are playing in this space, and we're not. So we need to figure that out, and we do need some time as a board to figure out where we're going strategically, and how we want this to look. So. It's, again, not about you, not about your organization. I trust Commissioner Uterman when he says you're doing great work. And again, I believe that. But for me, it's just the timing is off.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion fails.
I'm sorry, I meant to oppose.
Thank you so much. I don't think we're done seeing you, hopefully.
Thank you, and if I can just add one comment here at the end. This is just the nature of how these conversations go. It's okay. We exist, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention Grimsby exists to help the county have the conversation you're talking about. It's not just about doing deals, it's about the research and the strategy. So we would hope to be working with you. So.
Thank you so much.
Ready.
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, should we take a quick break?
This will be quick.
Good.
Yep.
All right, I like the sound of that. Item number 3.3, strategic planning consultant.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Pretty interesting how even just this morning, we're touching on many strategic issues and talking about which direction should we head. So here's another opportunity before you, as we do each year, to update the strategic plan. And we've talked about this directly a couple times, bringing on some help to facilitate that process. And at the last work session, I'd asked to bring along Commissioner Workman and Anderson, and I did that. We met with Dave Unmocked, and I provided not only his proposal and background information, but information from two other consultants, Craig Rapp Consulting and then Hugh Life. Those three were in the mixture, and there was consensus with Tom and Lisa and I to move forward with Mr. Unmocked. And of course, this is a professional service, So it's not always black and white. A lot of this is about the approach, Dave's background, for example, in his style to some degree, and it's also, of course, about the number. And Dave came in, and a little difficult to compare apples to apples, but his proposal was $8,500 for the services that were outlined in his proposal. And in trying to make a fair comparison with RAP Consulting, approximately 17,000, and Hugh Life was at 22,500. So again, not always that easy just to line them up, but pretty similar in their approaches. And again, I provided that sort of rough idea of how to approach this issue in detail via email. So I'd open it up. Maybe Board Chair Workman or Commissioners Anderson you have something to add.
Well, certainly bringing the talents of Commissioner Anderson to the board in her private life. She took a look at what was pretty much our strategic plan and kind of giggled, I guess would be maybe the easy way to say it, and that we are all kind of all over the place, and it was time to maybe redress some of really what we want to do. We get to the end of the year and we got to give old Mr. Hemsey kind of a grade, and he tells us what he's going to do, and then he does it, and then we give him a great grade. Maybe we need to tell Mr. Hemsey what it is we want him to do, and then if he does it, we give him a good grade at the end. And that can be part of a strategy, but kind of tidy up and bring together our strategy so that we can leave a lot more of this to our staff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Workman. And giggled sounds harsh, but I would say that Carver County does a lot and had a lot of strategic priorities. And I think when we're on the prefaces of some of the budgetary issues that we're looking at, and we also have a lot of statutory obligations. So it's time to really look at how are we going to proceed, what are our strategic priorities, and how can the board take a larger role in that and give clearer direction to our staff and our administrator. I think one of the reasons, so to be clear, I am a consultant, so I know a lot of people in the strategic planning space. And it was important to me to find someone who really had experience in the county space. Counties are different. We have a lot of, again, statutory obligations. We can't just do pie in the sky and throw away things because that's not what we can do. So Mr. Unmock, I hope I said that right, finally, gives us that, and I also asked for a couple other options. I didn't want to go in with just one option, wanted to look at some other people and some other firms in this space. So in addition to him coming in at a lower number, which I always like, he was also very nimble in his approach. Wanted the board to have a little bit more forward-facing involvement in this. He changed that up. He will also give us real good direction in our role and what is our role as a board and what is our role in the strategy development space. So I appreciated that as well and gives us that. So again, I think our last conversation is a really good example on why better understanding our strategic priorities and working together as a board, as a team, will help us moving forward.
Anybody else? Question?
No,
Commissioner Lynch.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Anderson. You mentioned that she has being a consultant, she has a wonderful wealth of information on this. So I'm glad that you and her and Dave were able to sit down and review and then hire Mr. Unmock. So.
Well, and no, listen, I'd rather not do this. I'd rather not spend the money. I'd rather, you're going to have to sit down with Mr. Unmock on your own time and talk to him about what you see and Commissioner Fahey and all of us and staff. And so he's got some work ahead of him. And, but yeah, if I didn't think we couldn't get something good out of this, I wouldn't want to do it. But no, I don't want to spend the money. But
And he made that clear several times, just to be clear.
Commissioner Gooderman? You're still thinking about MSP?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I've moved on to the next conversation. I think that, breath of fresh air with Lisa joining the board for transparency. I feel like this process has been less than transparent, so I have reservations there. I have reservations in why we wait till May. We've all been elected for more than a term in different capacities. Why are we waiting to share the things that we and our constituents want to? We're the voice of 22,000 residents. I've been clear on the three things that I want to see, and I hope that Dave can get us across the finish line. I've heard great things about him and the other candidates. I'll say those things again. I want culture within our community and in our organization that works. I want to unlock 212, and I want amenities to win our youth. Those have been the three things I've been clear on since I earned my election certificate in January. I hope that Dave gets us to a place that we can hear from our peers and force that conversation. What is it that you want to accomplish other than show up on Tuesdays and get reelected for 4 years? I want to see increased employee satisfaction. I want to see a lower tax rate, and I want to see lower turnover, and I want to see greater measurement. And for me, I can continue to go back to the quote of Henry Ford. If you want a faster horse, if you would ask people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. I want to ask people that are stakeholders that should have the microphone, and I'll use one story and then I'll be quiet. If everybody in this room was in my kitchen, as well as a plumber, and there was a leak from underneath my faucet, quite frankly, I wouldn't care what anybody else had to say. I'd want to get that leak fixed. So we should hand the microphone to the plumber equivalents in these conversations. Some people simply are just not equipped to have strategic conversation, visionary conversation, and the like. And sometimes we give the microphone to everybody and say, what do you think? And the loudest people win. And so I hope that this investment in Dave, and I hope that this time in May gets us there. I've said for 5 years now that we have a task list. We don't have a strategic direction. We do have strategies, we have vision, but we very, very rarely beckon back to what the vision and the mission and the values of our county are. And I hope those get crisper too as we go through this process. And so I'm in support of moving forward, but I have reservations for the reasons I shared.
Looking
Okay.
for a motion, Mr. Chair, listed in your packet.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Anderson and a second by Fahey. Any discussion on the strategic planning consultant? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. All right. County Administrator report.
I can give it from here if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
I'd love that.
Page 3 of your packet is your schedule. I just noticed we didn't have your favorite meetings, your ditch meetings on there. But those were distributed, right? Next week. So there's a meeting next week. That's the 11th, I believe. So we're putting that packet together. Kind of confusing, quite frankly, with all the various joint ditches and then the county ditches. So we're trying to get the agenda clearer to show who's on the various ditch board meetings, so you know when to come and when you don't have to participate. So next week is, I think they're all joint ditch board meetings. Is that correct, Krista? Okay. So more to come on that. We'll finalize that this Thursday and distribute it. Some of you look like you're questioning what those are all about. So,
Well,
Mr. Chair.
so we don't all have to be here for all of the ditch meetings.
Yeah, if you're not on, you don't need to. So yeah, you'll have to take most of them are like 15 minutes, pretty brief. They come and go quick, so you'll probably want to stick around. I'm not sure, I didn't see the list of the commissioners attached to each dish, so I can't tell you until I see that, and we'll send it out to you again.
Yeah, that would be good
Yep.
to see.
For sure, we'll get that out Thursday. And then, if we're moving on here, related to the strategic planning process, we're planning on one-on-one meetings with Mr. Unmocked and each individual on the board. So we'll get those out. Those won't be public meetings. But Krista will coordinate that And then there will be also a meeting with division directors, myself and Mr. Umacht. And then on your schedule, we're still shooting for this at May 27th, strategic planning retreat. So that's sort of that game plan. So pretty quick. And certainly that couples with to some degree with the budget, but I don't want to mislead you. The strategic planning document doesn't solve all the problems and give crystal clear directions. It provides some guidance. And it's this umbrella planning document that couples together with many other planning tools, including, they're all important, but obviously the annual budgetary process. So related to that, I'll be I've asked Dave, let's get that information out there. Let's get it on the calendar, the annual budgetary process. Let's get that on the calendar. So you're going to get loaded up pretty quick here with a variety of meetings. So as I always, go back to Krista if you're struggling with that. Okay?
And, Administrator Hemsey, we had also talked about having a meeting with the entire board before the 4th, or before May. So I'm not sure where that all fits in with the strategic planning, but we can talk about that offline. I just
Yeah,
wanted to mention that.
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out and get it into the schedule.
Yeah.
So now I'll have to have Dave Unmuck work with Krista and then coordinate with your schedules and division directors to make sure we're meshing them together and it's going to be crunched.
Yep.
We'll make it work though. There's a few months here.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
That it?
That's it. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lynch, do you have a motion?
Move to adjourn and let it go into work session.
I got a motion by Lynch to adjourn. And nobody else wants to
Oh,
leave the meeting. Second by Commissioner Fahey. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. The meeting is adjourned.
According to my